Hello, my name is Kevin Gilmore with the National Weather Service New Orleans Baton Rouge office located in Salado, Louisiana. Well, it's that time of the year when the summer heat brings daily routine pop-up afternoon storms to the area. But have you ever wondered what actually is going on that causes this type of weather? How these showers and storms grow and mature over time and produce such interesting clouds? There's a lot going on that you might not realize, so let's break it down in a quick lesson about summertime storms, the meteorology, and the threats that we commonly see. So starting off with a broad overview, we have the ground to the bottom of the screen here, and we're going to basically be recreating what these clouds do as the sun rises throughout the day. We have the surface at the bottom here, and we go up further aloft into the troposphere, or the layer of the atmosphere that we see most of the weather occur day to day. So as the sun rises, as we typically see in the morning, going in towards the late morning hours, the surface warms up naturally, as it always does here. And when it does, we start to see cumulus clouds form. And throughout the day, these clouds continue to ascend with time, growing into enormous heights into the troposphere, creating what are called cumulonimbus clouds. You may have seen this before with the clouds that just continue to billow up throughout the late morning and especially into the afternoon hours. This is a sign that we have a lot of what's called unstable air, so air that is rising through the atmosphere. This air is warmer than the surrounding air around it, which is cooler, which will continue to ascend through the afternoon hours. And as it ascends, it can only go so far. It hits the top of the troposphere, which is called the tropopause. This is the layer of the atmosphere between the troposphere, at which all the weather occurs, and the next layer of the atmosphere above it called the stratosphere. Once it hits this layer, it has a tendency to struggle to surpass this area, and the upper level winds, if there's any, will push the clouds off towards the direction the wind is blowing towards. If there is no upper level winds, this may create more of just a mushroom cloud type of an effect, but if there are some upper level winds, this will blow over the clouds. So what this looks like, time lapse, something like this. This is a sped up time lapse showing a cumulonimbus cloud with all of that energy going up. And when it can't go up anymore, it spreads out, and that's what creates what's called an anvil cloud. Sometimes this energy is so intense it can surpass the tropopause and pierce through it, as you're seeing here. That's called an overshooting top. That's clouds that are surpassing the tropopause and getting into parts of the indicator that there's a lot of energy with this thunderstorm, a lot of rising motion, and what comes up must come down. Now, however, for our area, it's not that simple. We have a complicated dynamic coastline across southeast Louisiana and southern Mississippi, a lot of bayous, lakes, we have the Gulf of Mexico nearby, so it's not that simple. We have some things that are called the sea breeze circulation, or you may have heard it as the Gulf breeze or lake breeze, depending on where it's coming from. So what is this exactly? Well, as throughout the morning, it does exactly like we just talked about. The air warms the land faster than it does the water. As the air is warmed, it is less dense and creates a thermal low. So all that rising motion due to the less dense air, warm air rises, creates a thermal low. Cooler, more dense air spreads inland to replace that air that's being displaced and rise up to the top of the troposphere. This creates a thermal low, and a temperature difference creates a boundary, basically. So we're getting the start of this sea breeze circulation. The air forced to rise cools, increasing its density. That creates a small high pressure aloft, basically. So now we have a high pressure above that thermal low. Air at this level has greater pressure and density. This causes the air to flow back over the water, and then the air cools and sinks. And the sinking air over the water is more stable, and the sinking creates a small high pressure. So now we have a temperature differential and a difference between density. Fair weather cumulus forms inland like we just showed before. Now we have a boundary that pushes inland over time, and it clears those cumulus clouds as they move further inland. So what does this look like on satellite? It looks something like this. This is a typical satellite view from above showing you those sea breeze boundaries that are pushing inland. And you can kind of see that it actually conforms to the shape of the coastline as it moves in. So this vertical circulation actually continues to push in through the rest of the afternoon. And we see the cumulus clouds and how it clears it out. That's because of the stable air that's clearing the air out, pushing inland with time. Now, based on the atmospheric conditions, we may see some thunderstorms form. It just depends on what's going on, how much moisture is available, how much lift in the atmosphere is available to showers. In this case, there really wasn't much. But did you know also that these boundaries can be picked up on Doppler radar? This is actually a case from June 3rd, just recently, where we saw the sea breeze boundary form. This is because it's picking up on the air density differences, the more moist, cooler, stable air over the lakes and Gulf waters versus the hotter, more unstable air over land. So it can actually pick up this density boundary, and this boundary is actually a little bit of is considered low-level convergence, or where air actually collides together. And since when the air collides can't go down, it's forced up and can help form the development of showers and thunderstorms at which you see. And these can be sporadic. It could be anywhere. That's why we call them hit or miss. They're pop-up. One area could get some heavy storms. The other can be completely missed by them. What does this look like altogether is the storms themselves can create cooler air, cool stable air, similar to what we see over the lakes and Gulf waters. And these all just turn into a hodgepodge, a collision of boundaries left and right. When you see collisions, you may see more storm development. Sometimes you see less storm development. So it's kind of a chaotic scene at what we see when we see these summertime thunderstorms, but boundaries can be a driving factor from these. And within these storms themselves, depending on the atmospheric conditions, is we can see a different range of threatening weather, including flash flooding if storms are not moving, or sometimes what we call is propagating on a boundary or become stationary. It can produce flash flooding, and in some cases can be life-threatening depending on the conditions. Just lightning is definitely no stranger to this type of area around this time of the year, and can be very threatening, as well as even damaging straight line wind gusts from what's called microburst or downdraft winds from the thunderstorm can be life-threatening. And that is why it's very important to be weather aware in the summer months, especially if you have outdoor plans and outdoor activities. If you plan on being on the water, make sure you know the forecast ahead of time and have a plan to return to shore quickly, especially if you hear thunder. As we always say, when thunder roars, go indoors. If there's a day where we're expecting the potential for severe weather, make sure you have a reliable way to receive warnings. Most of the threats that we see again in the summer months is going to be due to flash flooding, high wind gusts from downdraft winds, small hail. We don't typically see very large hail in the summer months, typically in this part of the United States, but it is possible. We can see small hail, like I said, and then even some isolated tornadoes. Again, not exactly common in the summer months, but can't rule out some water spouts, especially across a lot of the marine areas. So follow these tips and make sure that you and your family are safe through the summer months.